Hello, today we're going to look at compound interest and how to calculate it in Excel. Now I'm not going to pretend it's easy, it takes a bit of a while to get your head around it, but it's very interesting. I'm just going to reduce the size of my bonds, and let's have a look. Okay, so imagine you start putting away £1,000 a year, and imagine also, and with interest rates rising, it's not too hard to imagine this, you can get a return of 6%. Maybe it's being optimistic, but that's the figure we're going to look at. So one way of doing it, we can use various rows and copy down. So starting balance, we'll put in £1,000, and we'll put in £1,000 at the end of each year. Now the first year we'll calculate it, we're going to get 6%, which is £60, which is basically 6% of the first £1,000. We're going to assume the annual input doesn't go in toward until the end of the year. So calculations can be let's say not exactly precise if the organisation running this will calculate interest on the amount in the year, but I'm not getting too bogged down into details. So we're going to assume the sum of B6 to D6, so it's the initial £1,000 plus the extra £1,000 you put in at the end of the year plus the interest on that initial sum, so it's 2,060. So for each year following, we're just going to copy the previous ending balance, so this will equal E6. I've not used a dollar sign, so it's a relative value. You copy that down and it becomes E7, and we can copy that figure down as many years as you want to calculate for. I put 25 there. Annual input, we're going to keep it at 1,000, and again copy down for the number of rows, number of years we're going to calculate for. And this particular calculation, D3 times by B7, we're calculating this interest figure we've got in the field here, D3 multiplied by E. Let me just check this because I'm not quite okay. So it's B6 times by D3 B7, which is the starting balance, again multiplied by the interest, and we're going to copy that down as well. But the most important part is updating the ending balance. On each row it will calculate these three cells. So it's a relative reference. We've not got the dollar sign in there, it's not a fixed reference, so we can copy down and it will adjust for each row. So what happens is, when you earn interest on a particular year, that interest accumulates interest itself on the following year, and this is how compound interest works. And it means after 20 years of putting £1,000 in a year, you've almost doubled your money. You've put £1,000 in each year, and we've ended up with 39,000 because of the power of compound interest. Now, there's a different way to do this, and if we put the formula in correctly, it's a lot quicker than having to do all this. So if I put equals FV, which is a very powerful formula, future value, we put in a rate, and we've got it here, the percentage rate D3, comma. We're putting the number of payment periods, in this particular case it's 20 for 20 years, comma. We put in the payment or investment for each period. In this case it's £1,000 per year. I'm going to reference this cell here, comma. The initial optional lump sum, again we've got the same amount, 1,000. I'm going to put in D2 again. There is another value you can put in, which is type. If you leave it out, it will default to 0. The other option is 1. It depends on whether the interest is taken at the start of the year or end of the year, but I would ignore it for now. Close brackets. There's a problem with this formula, so I made a mistake, which is quite common. Okay, so I put in 2 brackets, that's why. Right, another thing, don't worry about it being in a negative format. Normally this future value formula is used to calculating repayments on a loan. In this particular case it's working out how much has been accumulated over so many years, and we can calculate that for 30 years just by changing the value in here, 30, and if we saved £1,000 over 30 years, the power of compound interest will give you 84,000, assuming you can get a steady 6% interest or return, which is not always possible. I'm going to change that back to 20 just for the last trick. We've got 39,992, but imagine if we'd not put in the initial £1,000. Okay, so we still put in £1,000 yearly, but not the initial lump sum. So instead of D2, I'm going to put 0. And we've got quite a bit less. Instead of the 39, I'll just check how much it was for 20 years, 39,992. We've got 36,785. So that initial £1,000 would have given us an extra over £3,000 after 20 years, just based on compound interest. If that sounds good, look at it another way. If your household bills are £1,000 now, if inflation is at a more or less steady 6% over the next 20 years, you'll need over £3,000 to buy the same amount of household goods in 20 years time. So swings and roundabouts. Okay, I hope you followed this. It's not particularly easy to follow, but as I say, it is a very powerful function, and I'll leave a link to the helpful Microsoft page for future value down below. Until next time, have a good week.